You've got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, just remember what your old pal said. Yeah, you've got a friend in me. All right, I'm glad to get that out of the way.
You can't go wrong with Randy Newman, man.
Exactly.
You can't go wrong with that one. That was actually a really good version. You guys got into it towards the end. I love it. I totally love it. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for
Well,
having
you guys
us.
are used to this. You're used to mics, right? You guys have your own show.
I mean,
on,
not
man.
this kind of setup. This is pretty impressive. But yeah, we've got our own podcast.
I was just I think before we got in here, I was just telling you, we used to set it up on a construction site. Just clamp the mics to a table, and you got plenty of plywood around, so you could just build a table and then just get the bar stools with all the logos on it, right? So we would just sit there and just record, and sometimes there'd be some construction sounds in the background, but that's where the early days of how the show was. But I figured that when I was going to do a studio, I might as well dress it up a little bit and make life a lot easier.
Yeah, you went all out. I mean, you guys start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's us too. Everything we do is virtually, but I mean, this is kind of one of our goals is to have a really cool setup like this. You come here, everything's set up, and just hit record.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about security, financing, money, which is a big questions, I guess, all over everybody's mind in Canada right now. And even this morning, I saw the little breakdown that the Trudeau government just presented for anybody who's buying a home above 2.5 million.
Yeah, and
the additional taxes, or something? Or 2 million. Sorry, 2 million and higher, you get a higher tax bracket now in tax.
Just want to make it a little bit harder for people, right? Yeah. for all those buyers out there.
Instead of figuring out how to make things easier for people to contribute and want to build. But I mean,
yeah,
we're going to get into all of that. Brandon Love is here. Tom Moffat is here. The Invested Entrepreneur, which is the podcast name. And you can find it on Podbean. And you guys are also North Shore Mortgage, right?
Yes, that's right.
And then the phone number to reach them is 647-743-2656. Definitely keep that down, guys, and write it because you're going to want to reach out to them or send them an email at experts@northshoregroup.ca. And on IG, it's invested.entrepreneur. And you can find them on YouTube under their names, which is Tom Moffat and the sign Brandon Love. And then I want to do a quick shout out to Panda Plumbing. I'm wearing his tee, his hoodie. And if it's nice, it's a large, but if it's nice, right? Everyone, I always tell everybody it's an extra large.
It looks comfy too.
It's not bad. I like the back.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that. Nice.
Like the back's kind of cool. I think we were just talking off mic how I like these guys. There's Vader Plumbing. There's Panda Plumbing. Yeah. There's all kinds of. I like these little names that they come up with, which makes a lot of sense. Cool. It's a marketing.
It's memorable.
Yeah,
exactly.
Unleash your voice on the Construction Life podcast community. Are you passionate about the world of construction, trades, and all things building related? The Construction Life podcast wants to hear from you. Leave us a review, share your thoughts, insights, and experiences on your favorite podcast channel. Your review fuels our mission to create engaging and informative content for the construction community. Your feedback is the motor that holds our podcast together. Share your thoughts, rate us, and let the construction community know why the Construction Life is your go-to podcast. Visit our website and check out the nearly 500 tradespeople and construction professionals listed on the site. Connect with all of them. Check us out at www.theconstructionlife.com for additional content, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and valuable resources. Dive deeper into the construction world with articles, guest profiles, and more. Follow us on Instagram at TCL_The Construction Life. Follow us on TikTok under the same handle, and tweet us at TCL Construction. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our link tree, and find exclusive discounts for listeners. Link is in the IG bio. Join the conversation on Facebook, the Construction Life community. So, okay, now to you guys. Where do we want to begin? How long have you guys been in the game?
We've been in the game, 4 years for you now?
4 years for me, yeah.
Just over 3 for me. So, yeah.
How's the game going?
It's been good. So I kind of came from my background. I had a farm before, and I was losing money as a farmer, and I was watching my buddies making money in mortgages. And
what were you farming?
I was doing cut flowers and growing vegetables and microgreens for restaurants. So it was.
I thought we need this.
We do, but
we desperately need
we
this.
just lost one.
Yeah. We had a plot, and it was like a leased plot, and then they were like, you know what, it's going to become a development, and I was like, you know what. I had just started doing my mortgage license. I'm like, this is a sign to me. and I'm so much happier that I transitioned out of it. And
So there's machinery on it right now?
yeah, I haven't gone by in a while. Yeah.
You don't want to shed a tear.
No.
No.
My daughter asked to do a drive-by the one day, and we went by, and it was just like, the kind of fenced off, and I was like, let's keep going. I don't want to stop.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah, bring back bad memories.
No. Okay. So then you got into this.
Yeah. And
right.
It was kind of like off to the races. It was perfect timing for the industry picking up when it did. And that was great. And we had an up year last year, which we were very fortunate for in an industry where everyone was down. So we're grateful for that. And
So you guys got started pre-COVID.
yeah.
Did it affect you guys much during that time, or did it wake people up?
During COVID, it was actually very busy because everyone was doing refinances because of the lower rates. So like for us, it's like, oh, this is like pretty easy. And then quickly that stopped because the rates started rising, right? And then as an industry whole, I think most people are down like 40 to 50% overall. But Brandon said, like, fortunately, we've had a really good year just because we knew it was kind of coming and that the writing was on the wall. So we just kind of 10x'd our input, and then we got that output from it. So we're fortunate that way. Yeah.
Can you guys be honest and let's just talk the Canadian side, because you guys focus on the Canadian side, right? Even though we have a lot of U.S. listeners and people around the world. How intelligent are Canadians when it comes to this? And I don't want to beat them up. I'm just saying how realistic, because I think that most of them have the mindset of it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to discuss it until it's actually right in front of my face and I got to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's you hit on a very good point. You don't want to discuss it. There's financial literacy, first off, in Canada is pretty bad. A lot of people don't think about their budgets. They don't think about their costs and mortgages and everything. Everyone just has this goal of home ownership, whether that makes sense for them or not. In a lot of cases, they would be better off renting. And the other piece is there's a culture of not talking about money, not talking about what you earn, not talking about what you're investing in. It's very closed guard that way. Whereas in the US and other cultures, people are more open to having those conversations. Even Canadians within their own household, a child won't tell their parent what they're earning and vice versa. So they have no idea what's gone into why they bought a home at that time. Like, sure, my parents bought a home when it was $96,000 in Burlington, but my dad was also working at Dofasco in the steel mill making good money there. Like, comparatively, you buy a home now for $1 million on $100,000 a year income, you're in a radically different debt load.
Is it? Yeah. Can we fix this? Like we've watched all the data, we've seen all the graphs, we've seen what debt to income to house ownership is, what it used to be, and how it was kind of easily climbing the way it was supposed to climb. But then in the last few years, it's just our level of income and then the level of the cost of property has just dramatically separated from each other, right?
I'd say the only two ways are, first way is to rely on the government to build more, which in my opinion, that's a horrible way to go.
Yeah,
exactly. They're not we're years away from that, if that. And the second way is to increase your own income. And that's what we're all about is going into teaching people how to build your business, and not saying that you have to be rich to own a home. You're kind of getting that way. You have to make some decent income, but that's what we're all about, is teaching you, hey, let's focus on what you can control. And that's you, that's your input, your output, your business. And so I think those are the only two ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's zero chance the government is going to do anything that works. Everything's for votes, and policy is for the next 4 years, which this is an idea that would take 20 years to really have an impact. And no one has the long enough runway or trajectory or the willingness to lose in the short term to get there. So I think government solving the problem is off the table. I think it comes down to entrepreneurship. You need to earn money somehow, be that through your job or be that through running your own business. And with that money, you need to start leveraging that so that it's earning for you and you're making smart moves. If you look around the world for cultures like ours, there's a very high amount of renters. If you look in places like Switzerland and the works like that, there's a whole renter economy because they can never afford property because they didn't get in early enough. And the only property is passed along generationally. Yeah. I think that's where Canada will get.
But how do we, are we the only country right now which the more money you make, the more you're going to get taxed? Our tax bracket, the moment you go over 100, what is it, 125,000 right now, you're getting taxed at 53%, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? Yeah. So obviously you got a lot of Canadians that are looking at putting their investments elsewhere or even building businesses elsewhere and then avoiding those tax breaks. But I mean, you can't fault them because the corporations in Canada are doing the exact same thing for that reason. So it's like, how do you, I mean, we used to say when we were younger, once you're making triple time, you're not worth the money that you're being paid because you're exhausted at that point. Yeah. You've done your 8-hour day and now you're getting to triple time, but you're like a walking zombie. So you're not a productive person, but you're being compensated this amount. But as soon as you get compensated that amount, you're taxed so much higher on that amount.
Yeah. And Canada tax wise, if you look at like Scandinavian countries, their tax rate's actually higher. So there's parts of the world that's higher. And the scary thing is that's a model for a lot of what the Liberal government is looking at. You know, this guaranteed basic income, things like this, all these dental benefits to everyone, anything that you're given and people feel good about, oh, I just got this climate top up in my bank account randomly. It's like, yes, you got that, but you're paying for it when you fill up your car. You're paying for it here. You're paying from the left hand a lot for them to give you a little bit in the right hand and smile at you and want you to feel good about it.
Well, okay, I'm an old school individual. So I look at it like our government should be a reflection of us. And I'm pretty sure I can confidently say that every parliament member does not use our medical system. They have private healthcare. They're using private healthcare. And I even have a bunch of friends that are going down that route and getting into private healthcare and covering themselves that way. So if they're making more money and then they're using these other avenues of how to cover themselves, universal basic income doesn't work. It will not work, right? But I mean, that's their end game. And all we can do is, I guess, keep above water for now to survive. But you're right. You have to start figuring out how to make more income based on your skills that you have right now and what you're currently doing. Doesn't matter, because I'm assuming you guys are going to share some light on, you can take any occupation. Like it could be a school teacher, it could be a laborer, it could be a business owner, it could be anybody. Yep. And there's potential there to grow your financial net worth, right?
For sure. Yeah, whether it's through investments or whether it's side hustle, or maybe you're transitioning into being an entrepreneur. Maybe you're in that labor position and you're like, you know what, I know I have the skills to do this. I'm going to create my own thing and scale that, because then that's infinite. You can scale your own business to however high you want to go. Versus, like, I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur and business owner, but to me, that's the path of least resistance to get the most amount of money in your bank account. Other than that, you can start a side hustle and kind of dip your toes in the water and feel it out first, or whatever. If you're good at saving, take that money and then invest it in real estate, maybe over in the States or elsewhere, or stocks, whatever your jam is.
Is real estate a viable option in Canada today?
Yes and no. So we talk about strategies like house hacking, where if you're 20 to 30s, you don't have your established family yet, your first home, you buy one with something like a basement apartment or a granny suite, or you buy a place and you build that in, especially for people in the construction industry who have those skills or the network to do it. Yeah. That forces appreciation on the property. It also gives them rental add back of the rent they collect, and that rent lowers their payment. So your cost of living goes down. Investing in Canada from the perspective of landlord, tenant rights, and where we kind of see things moving in regards to taxation, we're a little bit hesitant on, because we feel like right now all the rights are to the tenant and all the political optics are going towards supporting renters and the tax the rich kind of mentality. Yeah. And we both own investment properties in Canada, and at the end of the month, once you pay for everything, you're not getting rich quick off of real estate. It's a long-term play. And especially if you get a bad tenant in there,
there's a risk attached, especially in this economy. In the last few years, the way the tenants have become very savvy on what their rules are and what they can do, because they literally can't drag it out for a year where you get no income whatsoever before you actually legally, properly get them out of the property, which is not right.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your goal is too. Like if you know that ahead of time and you prepare for the worst. I think like in Ontario, nothing really beats the appreciation, which like is how I think out of all three things on how you can make your money in real estate, whether it's cash flow, appreciation, or mortgage pay down. Appreciation is what's going to make you wealthy over the long term. But with that being said, it's going to come with headaches with the landlord tenant laws here. So if you're worried about that and you want to avoid it, then look in Alberta. It's better rules there versus Ontario. And if you want to go really extreme, then you can look down to the States and look at like the Midwest states where the landlord tenant laws are way more favorable for the landlords.
Joining the ranks of tens and tens of thousands of satisfied Doll customers allows you to experience the Doll difference firsthand. You can trust in the quality and the durability of their products, backed by a company with a long-standing reputation for excellence. With Doll, you're not just purchasing a great product, but you're also gaining a reliable partner that is committed to your success. Check out Doll at www.dollvalve.com and on social at dollvalve. Would it be a good idea to reverse the whole rent control? Because they just abolished that when it was new construction, right?
Yeah, we have some thoughts on how the government could make things better. So rent control sure is one, but also another one I think is that if you're a landlord or you're a tenant, both sides of the coin, there should be a public registry where I can look and say, okay, this was a good landlord, or this is how long the timeline took for me to have a water leak resolved. And if I'm a tenant, the landlord can view, oh, they didn't pay their rent on time.
I like that.
They screwed me over. It's just full transparency.
Yeah.
It's
On
like,
both sides, too.
Yeah,
We're
like
not just
on
saying,
both
hey, it
sides.
has to be the best for landlords, not the tenants.
It's gotta be both
It's got to be
sides. That makes
both,
a lot
yeah.
of sense.
Exactly. Like when I go to lend you money, okay, you have to give me all your documents, all your tax documents. I have full transparency on your financial picture. If you want to look up me as a mortgage agent, you can go to Google. You can look at my reviews. If I put you with X bank, you can go to that bank. You can see what other people say about them. There's transparency to a degree on both sides, and I think all we have to have is one centralized page. It can be a government-controlled site that does it, and it should be visual to everyone, and it should also show credit scores, and it should be a tool for renters to build credit as well, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, right now there's no, like when you rent out a place, there's no other than if the place was properly built and there's a permit attached to that to say that's actually a legal dwelling. There's nothing to say what that anything's going on in there. Like
Yeah,
how it was
exactly.
built, how it's being maintained, how it's being taken care of. There's nothing.
You're going off of the seller's word. Is like,
Then all you're doing is you're doing the credit checks, you're doing the referrals, you're doing all that kind of crap, right?
Yeah.
That's the extent of it.
Yeah, you're doing risk off calling tenant references, which references are crap.
Paid actors.
Credit reports. You're calling their employer, that kind of stuff. Like it's not that great. Whereas this, you could have it be, okay, your property is listed. Anyone who's been a tenant underneath has a profile. You have a profile. You could even tie it into the fire department, making sure all your things are inspected. Like there's so many ways you could boost this, make the landlord experience better, make the tenant experience better, as long as you're a good landlord and as long as you're a good tenant. If you're a crappy tenant or landlord, this is going to show people that you're a bad person. And I don't like the idea that crappy people get to hide within a system that's designed to protect people. We got to shine a light on the shit.
So you were saying, so I mean, that's the part of where it's a risk, whether real estate is an option for investing in having that side hustle and having some extra income that way. I know that recently we spoke to somebody who's actually picked up and moved out west, and I know that there's better opportunities out west. Like the housing market is a lot cheaper, and you can buy certain properties and start setting them up as rental properties, not even be there.
Yeah.
Like you're just pre-construction residential subdivision properties, right? Yeah. So are we looking at this? I guess the quieter zones of Canada are still attractive looking for people to get into?
In Ontario or
no,
Alberta?
across Canada.
Across Canada. Well, I'll give you an example. Like I bought a place in Calgary 2 years ago now, and I'm like all about just trying to make it like the most laziest hands-off investment instead of like making it super active. Like I'm not the handiest. I know I'm not going to be in there doing the renos. I'd rather something that's hands-off, especially if I'm investing out of province. I'd rather that versus the other way around and control other trades going in and doing everything for me. I'd rather just have it ready, done, move-in ready. So I bought this townhouse that is in Calgary, and it's on the outskirts, so a bit cheaper. I think it's about 15 minutes to the main core, and it was a pre-con townhouse. I think I bought it for like $364, like
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. I would probably say maybe it's like 400 to 450 now. Like it's still like super low compared to here, especially in Oakville area. And what it came with was a 2-year guarantee that I get rent, and I have the property managers included with that. And I'm like, it's a no-brainer. And at first I was like, it's kind of fishy, because I was like, why is this so good?
It was being sold and marketed that way?
Yeah, from the builder.
And how did you hear about it?
Actually, I think it was our buddy Kyle. He sent it to me.
Okay.
And as I just kind of dove into it deeper, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Is it too good to be true? And it's really because Calgary, you have these builders that are more investor friendly. It's easier to build out there. So you have these types of programs, and you don't have to go with that 2-year guarantee as well, because 5 months into it, we're like, hey, rent's gone up about $200 a month, and our tenants want to go at the end of the lease. So why don't we change property managers and increase the rent as well? So you have options there. And that's why I started leaning towards that versus trying to force something in Ontario, even in like the outskirts, the like smaller cities and stuff. It just, for me, it didn't make sense.
What's the fear? I guess the fear, if you're an Ontario resident, it's like if you have to get over there, that's going to be the fear that you have to deal with the problem in a different
mindset thing. For
sure. Yeah, it's definitely a mindset thing. It's the same thing. People fear that they're going to have to wake up in the middle of the night and fix a toilet. Everyone always says this. And you're like,
for the listeners, like, oh, that's easy.
I've had those dreams when I was a landlord. It's like, okay, fine, I'll be in there in the morning, right? So,
but you can also just hire a property manager, and then they're the ones waking up, and you just you collect a little bit less each month, but you're still collecting.
I feel like a lot of listeners, like, I don't know if that would be a huge hurdle, is the property management perspective, because I feel like they would want to be hands-on with the maintenance and stuff. But I think it's like investing out of province and like outside of your main city, that's like a big hurdle from a mindset perspective. It's like, I can't physically see the property. I can't drive there if anything goes wrong. So then it comes down to Brandon's point with property management. It's like, I got to put full faith in them. So you really do got to do your due diligence with picking the right team on how to set that up before you buy the property.
Would I be wrong to say that, I mean, because you guys probably know your fair share of tradespeople, right? We are stubborn individuals that will never hire somebody and pay them what we can know that we can do, right?
Yeah.
So I think the best thing to do that, if you want to be a tradesperson and you want to try to expand your portfolio and buy a property outside of there, let go of that property manager mindset and give it to somebody else.
Yeah,
for sure.
Be
100%.
the business entrepreneur person.
Yeah.
So I think it's educating us people in construction to let go of that.
Yeah.
For sure. I think having that like CEO mindset of saying, okay, I can earn $150 an hour, or I can do this project in this time, or I can go drive and fix the toilet at my tenant's property that's an hour and a half away, get into a conversation with them. You know what I mean? And there's half
Since you're here, why don't you take care of this?
Yeah, half your day gone. Or you just give your X percentage that goes to your property manager. They handle it for you, and you go focus on finding more jobs. And we do that in our business all the time. We're constantly firing ourselves from different jobs that we can, because we know
firing yourself.
Yeah, because you have to do it, because we know that we make more money when we can go do sales, we can go prospecting, we can meet with more clients versus doing things like documentation, admin work.
Where's your value really where it should be, right?
Yeah.
Even though we might think like, there's no one that can pull credit as good as me, or like it's just like
every
industry
industry's gonna
package.
have that.
Yeah,
you think you're the all-star of everything, and I'm like, there's other people.
Yeah.
What's the typical percentage a property management company would actually take? It's a percentage. It's based on a percentage.
It's percentage,
monthly rent, usually 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Right. So that's not crazy dollars
No,
if you think
it's
about
not.
if you can focus your time and effort on other opportunities, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I would imagine that you could probably strike a pretty good bargain with one as well in a service trade, where you do a job on one of their projects and then they property manage for a year for free. I'm sure a barter, and then no taxes go to the government there too.
Totally.
And
because you're speaking their language.
Yeah.
And then you'll be looking at other opportunities as well. And I go, listen, I got another opportunity, but it needs a little bit of work. Do you want to take it on? I'll give it to you. And then if you can manage this property for the next year, and then we'll kind of just wipe it clean at that point, right?
That's a good,
exactly.
yeah.
And then your investment property actually becomes a source of leads for your other business as well, because essentially you're going to run they're going to run up the tab too much. You don't want to go 4 or 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
So they just start paying you for jobs. They know
But that's
you
the
do good work.
entrepreneurial mindset that you want people to start getting into,
Yes.
shifting gears, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to just punching the clock.
Yeah.
And like we've all been told ever since we're a kid, it's like you punch the clock, you do your job, you're a good person, and then you pay your taxes and you do it again and again and again. Like that shit is done, isn't it?
Yeah. You got to break that cycle of thinking.
Yeah.
And
We've both been there.
Yeah, we've done it.
Yeah, like I come from a blue collar background, just working for another employer, just kind of doing my thing. And then I realized, like, for me, because I got into the whole FIRE movement, like financial independence, retire early, dove into that. I was like, okay, well, how can I get there? And one of the ways you can do is just by saving a shit ton of. Sorry, I don't know if you swear.
Oh, you can totally swear. This is a construction life. No, you can swear in every language. I encourage it.
Yeah. So it's save a shit ton of money and just be frugal and then save that and then invest passively in stocks. I'm like, that's going to take me a long time to get there. So what else can I do? And then that's where I started. I dove into the mortgage space as like a side hustle. And then I quickly realized, like, man, I'm doing okay at this. I can scale this quicker than what I'm doing now. And just, yeah, so that's kind of like where I came from. And that's my mindset. But I understand a lot of people aren't always fit to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. So you got to look at other avenues to create that additional income coming in.
Is any Canadian ever too late to start?
No.
Like I've read, I can't remember the author's name, but I can't remember. It's a retirement book where it's never too late to start or something like that. Forgive me, I can't remember it, but it's actually a good book. And he talks about 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds starting at that age because you get this mindset where you get a lot of teenage guys and girls starting and they're hustling and they're doing all kinds of stuff, right? And I'm like thinking, I don't think it's ever too late.
Yeah, I don't think it is too late at all. Sure, if you're going to start at 60 and try to do a 6% index portfolio for 5 years, you're not going to do a lot. But you can leverage a whole network of people you know from your career up to that point and build a business or build a strategy out that way where, sure, you might have to go a bit higher risk if you're trying to get from 60 to stop at 65, but there's opportunities to do it.
You guys bring up a good point there because I'm really scared, not for me, I'm scared for a lot of older people because they're going to live past 65. Like, I don't think, when was the last time we ever saw a Freedom 55 commercial? Like, that doesn't exist, that commercial anymore, right? So it's just like, and the unfortunate thing is, I think specifically in tradespeople, and I've said this, I think, on the show a few times, you know, they're 65 pushing 70, and you got tradespeople saying, well, what else am I going to do? And when I hear that statement, it translates to me them saying, I need to continue working because I don't have enough money to retire. And like we've had other people on the show talk about how the average Canadian has just over 200 grand, $265,000. That's what they have for the retirement. And now if you're retiring at 65 and you're going to live to 95, you have 30 years where you got to let that grow. It's impossible to grow because it's going to get taxed first of all. So it's going to shrink. If anything, it's never going to grow. So that makes me really nervous about a huge portion of the population at getting to a certain age and all of a sudden not having enough money to survive.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do we tackle that?
The biggest risk is for Canadians is actually running out of money. It's not the risk you take during your career. It's exactly what you say. You run out of money and then they depend either on the one asset, which is their home, that's paid off. But you get to that point.
But they're refinancing their homes at a position in their life when they can't. But then they also can't because they're retired because they'll not get approved.
Exactly.
So then they're looking at B lenders now, which
is reverse
like,
mortgage is like their only hope at that point.
Or they look to sell and then move somewhere else, or they look to their children to support them, and it's just a cycle where it's like if you took a little bit more calculated risks earlier on, you have the time to compound, and you're not in this position. You can age gracefully in your home up until the point that you want to move on from there, but you're not forced to make those decisions. And I think that's the scary thing is so many people rely on that single house strategy, and also the government with OAS CPP. OAS CPP puts a bit of food in the fridge. It does not do anything for you beyond that.
Am I wrong to say that in 30 years, those two things are going to be gone?
Oh, they're going to be gone, or your tax rate's going to be like 75%.
It's basically invisible at that point. It's not going to be contributing to anybody. There's going to be an inflection point, I think, where either taxes will go too high or something's going to happen where some of those things will
go away or come down in a sense, and there will be a mass exodus of people who are contributing business owners, and they'll just move to different countries, different places where
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Contractors, it's time to empower your business with Shelta Tech implementation. Shelta is offering a free meeting to tackle your biggest pain points head on. Their goal, to develop a custom company app that's built just for you. Solving your pain points, streamlining your processes, making your workday smoother. Here's the scoop. There's a $15,000 digital adoption grant available, and Shelta is an expert at helping you secure it. This isn't just funding, it's your stepping stone into a new era of digital efficiency. By your second meeting, you'll get a tailor-made company playbook, a software prototype designed with your input, project tracking, real-time budget management, and daily logs all integrated into a single app. It's tech that works for you, not the other way around. Shelta isn't just offering tech, they're offering transformation. Join the community of 93 subcontractors who have already stepped up their game with Shelta Tech. 2 meetings, countless opportunities. Ready to make a move? Visit shelta.app. Let's pave the way to a smarter, tech-driven future. Shelta Technology, custom tech solutions for the modern contractor. So where are most people leaving money on the table? Like, where are they not taking advantage of certain situations?
I would say a big one, when we draw back to those people who have all their eggs in one basket where it's in the house. You have so much equity in your home that's built up, and even to present rates today, your low fives, we're kind of mid-January at this point, your low fives, they're coming down. You could take that money out, you could borrow it from Scotiabank at 5.19%, and you could go stuff your TFSA, tax-free savings account, buy the Scotiabank stock, and present day that's paying over 6% dividend, and it's down, I think, 24% over the year. So you have, if it comes up to normalized, you have a potential 20+% gain there, plus you're gaining on the money you pulled from the refinance, and you can write off that debt from the income earned, depending on the account it's invested in. So you have strategies to gain that way, instead of keeping all your equity in the home with the hopes that, okay, when I'm old, I'll sell the home and I'll live off the cash.
Yeah. But you still have to live someplace. So you're going to still have to buy something. At that time, that something is going to be very expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it really worth it? And that's what makes a lot of sense, is like, you don't buy the Starbucks, you buy the Starbucks stock.
Yep.
That mindset, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just start looking at what's working out there and kind of ride that wave, right?
Yeah, and you don't have to go high risk. That's what I'm saying. Like, go somewhere, like Canadian banks, they're not going out of business.
They've never been read.
They're too tied to the fabric of our entire economy.
And if they do, they'll get bailed out.
Exactly. So they're not disappearing. Sure, your share might be down 1 year to the next. That's investing. But you're still collecting the dividend. They've never not paid a dividend either. So you're always going to get the dividend as long as your dividend's higher than the mortgage. You capture that gain. You're just gaining.
Yeah. I'd say equity for sure is number one, from like an actual literal, like, this is one thing that you can use right now to your advantage. And then second one, it's going to sound like kind of cheesy, but like, it's true. Invest in yourself and continuing to learn, like, even if it's outside of your trade or whatever you're doing, like, it's going to open up the door for more opportunity. And if I hadn't done it, then I would probably still be working my old job, just putting my head down, doing the work and not really getting ahead. But if I didn't, if I didn't invest in myself and in learning more, then I wouldn't be where we're at today.
Yeah.
So how do we get these people to start paying attention to this? Because I get the mindset that the herd, the majority of Canadians, are not thinking this way. Mm-hmm. They're kind of being told to go the traditional way of doing things, right?
Yeah. Listen to our podcast.
Basically, you start listening to these ideas, right? These different kinds of ideas. Also educating yourself too.
Yeah, educate
Do your own
yourself,
homework, because there's lots of people out there. There's a lot of noise.
Lots of people have done it. There's lots of people that are doing it right now, and that's kind of what we want to do, is bring people on and tell their story of how they achieved X, Y, and Z. And I think that's the first place you start, is learning from what others have done.
Yeah, and I think if you're grinding your day to day, you go to work in the morning, you come home, you have dinner with your wife, you crack a beer, you're shooting the shit with your family. Instead of, when you're winding down for the night, flipping on that Netflix show, flip on half an hour of YouTube, watch a couple of videos. That'll just get a seed planting in your head. You'll go into your next day thinking about it. If you do that every day for 30 days, you're going to be thinking differently. You're going to look for opportunities. You're going to look for ways to leverage, and your mind will just start seeing different. It's like the red car theory. If I tell you, how many red cars do you see today on your drive to work?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
You guys can keep on trying that shit. I'm still not looking at it.
You're going to look for them now. Count them tomorrow.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, if you're looking for opportunities, even within your own company to be an entrepreneur, or you're looking for entrepreneurship opportunities, if your mindset is, okay, I'm going to try to find some of these opportunities, you will find one. And you go to your boss, you show them how to save X percentage on a couple jobs. You do that a few times. Next time you go and ask for a raise, you say, hey, I saved you this much on supplies, or I saved you this much on labor on this project. I'm looking to do that more for you, but I want to earn more. You're going to pay you more.
I love the idea, and I totally agree with you guys that we should be encouraging more people to start looking at themselves internally and just realizing, where is there opportunity for me to look at financially speaking? What else can I do? Whether that's associated with my career choice that I'm doing right now or what I have in my home. I want to share a little story, and I'm not going to divulge names because certain people will get in trouble. You had a person who worked for a certain company, and he was able to sell product from that company on his own through his garage, right? And he started putting Facebook ads out there and getting a lot of traffic, and and he was selling it. He wasn't competing against anything. This is a product that's not sold in stores. So he was selling this product, but then all of a sudden a neighbor complained because there was consumer traffic coming to his home and cars were arriving, buying the product and taking it with them. Then you had just a hole of a neighbor just complain. And then he was a nice person in the neighborhood, and he just went to everybody and just started asking, was this you? Was this you? And nobody coughed up to it. But then he did more investigating, find out who exactly it was, right? And I just hated the fact that you had one Canadian, and this is during COVID years, by the way. And so all of a sudden, I hated the fact that you had one person who had the mindset to try something new. Here's a side hustle. I can do something. I'm not hurting anybody other than cars being parked for a few minutes in front of my house, buying the product and leaving, right?
Yeah.
And you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but regarding CRA, you're allowed to do a certain amount of that, not having got in trouble with the CRA.
Yep.
And he wasn't getting anywhere near that amount. And so it's not about setting up a store and then just trying to defer tax or not pay tax and all that shit. You just had another homeowner that didn't like that he was doing that.
That's super annoying.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, right? And we would want to do a Goodfellas thing and just go across the street and take care of that guy that way, right? Yeah. But you can't do that in today's day. I encourage anybody, whether you're young or old, and you've got something interesting that you want to build and do and share and sell, do it. Yeah. That's how you build a nation, right? Sure. But don't get upset because someone else is doing it and you don't want to do it because you're lazy.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a piss poor mindset of the neighbor, and you're always going to get neighbors like that too, by the way. But it's like, it's shit. Like, the guy's trying to better himself and improve his life, and you got someone else. But the only thing you can do is just really start from scratch or pivot the model and really just go from there and see what else works.
Yeah, that's like, that neighbor's going to be the super jealous guy. Yeah. But, you might have a buddy in the neighborhood or a friend with an empty garage. Just shift the inventory over there and keep going. And up to, I believe the number is $30,000 that you can earn without having to register for that HST number. You're not breaking any laws. You're not hurting anyone. And every business and everything starts with that small step. So he might say, you know what, there's actually quite a market here. Maybe I should open a small storefront and I should do this.
That's how you get little shops opening up. That's how you get businesses opening up, which is great, which is what we need. And I love that the small mom and pops, for the most part, did survive during these funny years, right? They did survive. It just said something that it actually, the passion in the heart of individuals wanting to still thrive was there. They still worked really hard to get it done, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was the businesses that kept things going. And it was the employees who went home. It was the business owners that actually kept the ship rolling. And I think, I don't know, I would think if I were in the government, that would be an indicator to me that we should encourage more entrepreneurship. We should have some more.
The government is not a think tank, by the way. Never has been, never will be, right?
Yeah. No, but
it's a blink tank, right? That's what it is.
I like that, blink tank.
Yeah,
it's made it up, but it's just useless, right? I agree with you, but the unfortunate thing is that anybody who's got some kind of just the mindset of let's try things, let's kind of grow, that's how we can build it, let's unify, let's work together. You'll get eaten up if you get into government. Yeah. You'll become one of them. You're going to become the villain. That's all it is, right? So then all of a sudden you're not really going to change anything. So the way you change anything is just kind of keep it internal. And I mean, we see this I'm very impressed by certain tradespeople come on here and they'll start connecting with Facebook groups. And so now, you started with an idea that you wanted to share, and all of a sudden you speak to one person, you speak to another person. Now you speak to thousands of people, and you're offering a product at that point. Then guess what? You're making money off of that. And you didn't do it with any kind of traditional marketing. You didn't do it with a storefront, bricks and mortar. You actually just did it by networking online and speaking to one person. They shared it to another person and kept on growing it from there.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity there, right?
Yeah,
to do
sure.
that.
That's how I built my whole mortgage business at the start. I went on Facebook groups, so like Burlington Buy and Sell, Milton Buy and Sell, and I'd say, if you're going to sell your home, which realtor would you use? And you would say, I'm using Tom Moffat. And I would call Tom and I'd say, hey, Manny says you're awesome. I just want to pick your brain, talk about
Triangle of Trust.
Triangle of Trust.
That's it.
And I just did that. I did it 130 something realtors I met with doing that. And that's what built the whole foundation for the business.
How much time did you spend like on a daily, on a weekly, over a period of time? Like what were you committing?
Yeah,
to do
so I did Zoom meetings because it was pandemic times. I did probably up to 6 calls a day, like 6 meetings a day, and I would just do until I had my next day booked. I would do calls and repost that question in different groups. And ironically, I have a huge book of business now in Sarnia, Ontario, which is about 2.5 hours from here. Because no one...
You just targeted.
and no one was being proactive. And I just did this strategy there, and it just scaled for me. So
It's been working.
Yeah.
So were you guys, I'd love to talk about this year, how, what are some new entrepreneur ideas that are going on, that are kind of coming to fruition on this year? If there's anything that's standing out.
So in terms of like business wise,
Yeah.
what we're seeing, you know what, we don't really see too much of like the shiny objects, like the AI disruptors. That doesn't really fall into our world as much as we see more people doing the traditional ideas, but they're just doing it better, or they're doing it with a twist, or they're figuring out how to scale it faster, where someone might say, like, I'm going to build a portfolio of 10 properties over a 20-year time frame. We have someone coming on our podcast, and she's like around 30 years old, and she's up to 80 doors.
Yeah.
And just like massive growth. Like, so we just see people doing things like that.
Is she just leveraging each property to the next property and so on and so on?
Exactly. Yeah.
But isn't there a lot of high risk in that if things start, the variable rates and what she's...
there's risk in any investment or business that you create. But I mean, like for us, to the shiny object, like we call it like shiny object syndrome, where it's like you see something that's like, oh, that looks like a good idea. And then you're always pivoting to this new business idea. And we've had a bunch of that over the last couple of years, like, because we merged businesses and we were like, oh, what about doing that for our business or creating that business? But then like this past year, we focused on just dial in and just focus on the one business, which is the mortgage business. And for that, like, I love like hearing stories of someone that maybe they started a lawn care business and it's humming and going along, making 100K a year, but then like, oh, you know what? I can really scale this and go like nationwide. Like I love hearing stuff like that versus trying to go for this like new AI shiny object idea. But those are like the kind of stories that we hear about is like someone that's just focusing on the one thing they're doing and expanding it.
Yeah.
And that's just through education and research, trying to figure out how to,
Yeah.
I got a widget. How do I get this widget to as many people as possible?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And
right?
sticking to it too. Because like the one thing that separates like someone that's successful as an entrepreneur and someone that's not is just someone that has stuck to it. Because I find a lot of the times someone, like a lot of entrepreneurs get to that point where it's like super tough, but just over that hill is where it starts to really steamroll and things like start working out. But they give up at that point because it is hard and you don't have that assurance that things are going to work out. So I'd say like just sticking to it over a longer period of time and knowing that if you keep putting the work in it, yes, it might take you a longer time if you're doing the wrong things, but if you're still doing the work, eventually you will get some traction.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let me play the dick. Like I know that we've seen all the memes and it's like, if you just stick with it, you keep on working at it, it's just over the horizon. Happiness is just beyond the darkness, like all that kind of stuff. And I get the sense from what I've read and what I've seen is that if you want to go down this path of being an entrepreneur, and for argument's sake, every tradesperson is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're a business owner, and either they provide a service or they have a business themselves or they're working for somebody, but they're part of that circle, right? But no one ever tells you how long it's going to take, the shit that you're going to go through, the losses you're going to have, and then have to come back up and try to succeed again and rebuild again and keep on going. It's just, it takes a special person to kind of keep going through that. This podcast episode has been sponsored by Class and Bronze Limited, authorized Canadian and U.S. wholesale distributor of Pagan heavy-duty, high-performance tile leveling systems and installation tools. Choosing to buy outstanding and beautiful tiles also requires buying exceptional tile leveling system. For hassle-free installation and an exceptional leveled finish, choose Pagrin. Imitate it, never duplicate it. Available at Amazon, select ProSol stores, and purchased at www.tilelevelingsystems.shop. You can also find Pagrin on social at Tile Leveling Systems and their website, www.pagrin.com.
It's
hard.
It does. That's why not every business owner is successful, because of those things that you mentioned.
Yeah. I would also add to that too, like you see a lot of that like meme culture, hustle culture, and I would argue that, okay, so they're saying this is going to solve your problem. You don't ever actually solve the problem. You just find a bigger set of problems that has a higher reward attached to it. Like as we scale our business and our investments up, it's not like one day, okay, we're not going to have that problem tenant, or we're not going to have the difficult client file. We actually have more of them because we're scaling with it, but we're better equipped to deal with those because we've done the reps leading up to that point. And
how do you speak to a client, or how do you speak to a person and tell them, like, here it is, 5 years of shit, man. Like, it's just, that's it. Like, draw it out, take a picture of it, smell-o-vision it. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is what you're going to go through. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
It's easy to say yes at the
I
beginning.
was just going to say that. It's easy to say yes at the beginning, but you don't know until you actually do it.
What if it goes past 5?
Yeah, that's the scary part, and the unknown of like entrepreneurship is you don't know when things are going to pop off and actually work,
or if they're going to pop
if
off.
they will.
I ran a business for 6 years in my 20s that ended up losing me money by the end of it.
And how much support did you have? Because that's the other thing that I'll bring up regarding entrepreneurship is that for the most time, during that whole course of you trying to make this happen, you're the only one.
It is a lonely endeavor. Yeah. I think in the beginning, everyone's like, great, good for you. Like your friends and family kind of think this is great. And you might get a couple sales from them out the gates, but then there's a period of like, what the hell is this guy doing? You're not making it. And if you pivot your idea, then they're like, oh, you try a lot of things. So you have to kind of be able to block the noise from your immediate group, and then also just be willing.
How do you do that, right?
So like,
I get a lot of people, because you'll hear them. They'll like, listen, just keep doing it. It's working great, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Get on the bus and get the fuck out of my life now. Like that. I'd rather you not say the words of encouragement.
Yeah.
Because I think it hurts more to hear you say, because I think you're just saying it to be nice.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you not say it.
So I like to do like mental frames. So I've got one, I call it Board of Directors. It was from a book. I forget the origin of the book, but Shane Parrish, he just brought it back to me in the book Clear Thinking. And it's the idea of having a board of directors. So you have someone who's like your model for family, your model for business, model for investing, model for philosophy. They can be living or dead. A lot of mine are dead or in the past. But you have this idea of, okay, if I'm going through a tough time in my business, how would X investor have handled this time? What would their frame be? Because that's going to be better for you than going to your dad, for instance, who might say, you know what, you can always throw in the towel and try this next strategy. Like, maybe you've given it your best. You've done great. Like, or keep pushing at it. Where someone else in your board of directors might say, you know what, it's time to give up the idea and try something new. There's no shame. And
how many times you got to hear that one?
A lot.
You heard a lot.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is the same people that tell you to give up are the same people that tell you to keep pushing. You have to have that internal wherewithal. Also, like we talked about this on an episode recently when I was giving up my farm too, like it was kind of like that weird point of I've sunk over $100,000 and I've sunk all this time, and do I want to go do the next farm project, or is that not really going to get me to where I want to be as an individual. So I think you have to set a time horizon, pick a destination. This is where I'm going to be in 20 years, and then reverse engineer it.
And pick a proven model too, like something that has worked for people and is not on a something that's working for other people, and it's an industry where you can make money. And like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but microgreens, like, is there anyone that's like really scaling that? Or
there's a guy in Calgary who he makes a shitload of money, and he's done a fantastic job of it. But he converted a warehouse, and it's floor to ceiling greens, and he's just got 2 team members that goes through, and all he focuses on is sales, and that model works. But he's getting like $40 a pound on certain greens.
that's an outlier though, right?
Yeah, that's an outlier. Like growing in a field, you can't control weather
Right.
pattern. You can't control who shows up to the farmer's market on a Sunday. You could be sitting with half your inventory sometimes. And there's certain models like preset restaurant orders and stuff like that that gave you more consistency. But, it's
But
not.
him being an outlier, he probably actually looked at the landscape, no
Exactly.
pun intended, and just like figured out who's doing things right and who's doing things wrong, and just make his own mental notes to contribute to his, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it's grown from that point.
Yeah, and he also came from within the industry he was selling to now. So he came within the restaurant industry. So he had all those contacts. So he just leveraged his relationships for sales. So I think that's a key piece too. Like in university, I started a clothing company just for fun. Thought I was going to make a lot of money, but I had no
Like
contacts.
a brand, like a line,
Yeah, we manufactured clothes.
men, women,
Actually.
both.
Men's. Yeah, you got one in my
Atkins and
wallet.
Barley has one of his wallets here.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so we made good products.
I've been using a single-sided wallet since my high school days
Yeah.
because my friend from high school has the George Costanza wallet, which
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
it's like this fucking thing of everything, and I just like that makes no
Sitting
sense.
like this.
It's
You
like
need
the
a driver's
worst thing
license,
for
you
your
need a
back.
health card, and you need one credit card.
Yeah.
That's what you need, and you always kept money. I always kept it separate from the wallet.
So you got
If
on
I-
your phones now
If I lose
too.
one, I don't lose both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it, and I never lost either. But yeah, that's slick. I've always been doing that for like 30 years now.
Maybe
man.
you should start it back up.
Yeah. I got all the inventory in the garage.
That's a shiny object.
Just rebrand it. That's all it is, and get it out there. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
like-
I know what you're saying. I get it. I understand that. Which brings me to: do you guys ever deal into VC? You get into venture capital money and dealing with that whole world with entrepreneur? Because I guess certain ideas will grow, and you might have to bring players into the mix now at that point.
We haven't, from a lending perspective on our side. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I invested in our current brokerage last year. I bought like a stake of the brokerage, and that was kind of like self-funded within them. But yeah, not too much. We don't do too much on that side yet. I think that's largely just where we're at from where we're both early 30s, young families. We have our primary residence. We're just investing in real estate and investing in growing our own business and ourselves. So we're not quite
Yeah,
at that
trying to take it one step at a
VC
time.
level.
Yeah.
10 years from now, we'll
Things-
be investing in businesses probably. Yeah. But at this point, right now, we're just kind of taking the next logical steps that we can afford.
Here's a question for you guys, and you don't have to answer it, but I'm just curious. You planning on retiring in Canada?
Like retiring and staying in Canada?
So
Because I'm just
you
gonna
know
say,
what, I've
I'm gonna
had
say
that.
no for me.
for you,
Like for you personally?
Yeah.
Okay. I've thought about it, and I actually would love the idea of I don't mind the summers here. I fucking hate winters. Like I can't stand
winters,
it.
Yeah.
but it's just
So
yeah.
for me, the ideal would be like stay here for the summer and then go down south to like Costa Rica or even Florida. That would be ideal for me. I don't know.
yeah, I think it would depend on when I retire and also like what is going on in life at that time. Like,
Well, I was going to ask you is like, do you ever retire if you're an entrepreneur?
yeah, because that's what we talk about all the
That's-
time.
yeah.
Like we got into financial independence, retire early, and then both of us were, we don't actually like
Yeah.
the retire early
You're not going to
part.
stop.
Well, because
Yeah.
we love doing it. So it's like,
So-
why don't we just keep doing it? But
Yeah.
maybe you build your business to the point where it's like, I don't have to work. I can let that run on autopilot, or I
Yeah.
have this amount of assets where I can live off of that if I just decide to just, all right, you know what, I'm peacing out. I'm not doing this business anymore, but I have all these assets and cash and investments where I can live off that on a yearly basis.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
but
don't know where it's going with that. But.
I think if you're like parents are aging and you're retiring, you might stick around Canada for
Yeah.
a bit, or if your kid gets married and they have kids right away, you might want to be the grandparent, and certain things like that could force you to stay.
Yep.
To set more roots.
I think family is the thing that would hold me back. If I didn't have family here, I probably would consider just going somewhere else full time.
Yeah, I think if I didn't have kids right now, I wouldn't even be living in Canada right now.
Yeah, because we don't have to. We can live as long as we obviously have residency.
What's the place that you'd be interested in?
I would probably travel around for a bit
Yeah.
and find a spot. So just use like digital nomad visas and try different places like Spain, Bali, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Work from there. And then if I found a spot where I felt like I could settle more, sure, maybe I would settle some roots, and then I would come back here. I would rent a cottage for the whole summer, and I would just host my friends and family up there whenever they wanted to come up.
Like a lot of people they're having these conversations. They're just
they are.
wondering. Like I know that, what is it? Someone said on the other show, he was saying, I think it's every month 400 and something people are moving out of Canada for good. They're leaving, going south or going someplace else, right?
Yeah.
They just don't want to be here. So I think that a lot of people are probably thinking about, where do we want to end up retirement wise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because a lot of people look at their primary residence is like, I'm free and clear on my mortgage and I have $1.5 million home. Yeah. I can sell that and just take that money and live off of that in somewhere like Portugal and live for a fraction of the cost and have great weather all year round. Like,
yeah,
that sounds great.
My wife the other day was saying that she was tired of going to work, and I'm like, hey, we'll sell the house in Milton.
You and everybody in Canada.
We'll sell the house in Milton. We'll sell the investment property in Sarnia, and we can go live in this spot in Spain. They have visas for Canadians. It's $250,000. We'll have $750 to $1 million.
Wait, what is it? $250 for the visa?
No, $250 to buy the property there. So we'll have like $750 to $1 million, that cash, 6% return on that. We have $60,000 a year to live off of in Spain, plus whatever I bring in from there. I'm like, you don't have.
It ain't a bad painting, man.
Yeah, but I'm like,
ain't a bad one.
You gotta go tell the kids we're moving tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be the
That's easy. Get in the car. Get in the car, get on the plane, and shut up. This is done, right? Like, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not diminishing Canada, but it's just like, I think there's better opportunities out there. And plus, you don't know as a person, as a human being, what you're going to discover.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's worth like trying at some point in your life, even if it's for like a winter or something. Yeah. Just go somewhere for a couple months, try it out. Because it's one thing to say like, oh, I would love to live somewhere else full time and just exit Canada, but you don't really know until you get there. So I think it'd be better to test it first versus like burning their boat and just like selling everything off and going.
By no means am I ripping up my passport. Like, I think the grass is greener, and I love a lot of parts of Canada and like Canadian people.
I got an advantage because I've got a Portuguese passport, right? So
unreal.
I've got, the EU, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
sick.
I kept it up for that reason.
So you can go anywhere in Europe with that, right?
Yeah.
Without any headaches, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Just don't show them the Canadian passports.
My wife has one. I've always wondered if I can hop on board.
Hungarian?
Sure, you can.
Yeah, I'm getting my Hungarian.
I've been told no, so I got to do it deeper.
I'm doing my Hungarian right now.
Are you?
Yeah, my sister, because my great grandparents left during.
See if there's a connection in the family tree somehow.
Yeah. So when they left was during, drawing whatever war it was, but they had to leave the country, and so we can get the passports by showing our family tree. So my sister started the process last year, and then I'm just gonna join on.
Unreal.
It's gonna take months and months, if not a year, to do it.
But
if you want to get started on doing it,
yeah,
just get
even
it
if it's a
done now.
thought, right? Then you
never
have it.
know. Like,
Yeah.
and it's nice to have that second backup passport just in case.
For your son, you should do it right away because he can get it.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah, you can get it. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys because how do we protect all of our assets as we're growing them? And all of a sudden, let's say we do really well as an entrepreneur, and we've done our homework and we haven't been watching Netflix and all the crap that's out there, and we just kept on studying and building and speaking to individuals like you guys, listening to your show and listening to other shows, and now we've actually built a nice nest egg, and part of it is going to go to our kids and maybe some friends, but there's still going to be more assets attached to that. How do we protect all those assets? How do we manage those assets? How do we do all that?
So as you scale, your team has to scale with you. So you might talk to your accountant once a year now when you file your taxes.
It's more than that.
As you're scaling your business and going that way, you're going to incorporate. You're going to have different things where you're going to be talking to your accountant maybe 6 times a year now. So you just have to scale your team and rely on their expertise and say, okay, how can I pay the least amount of tax, or how can I set this up so that my kid pays the least amount of tax? Can I add them as a director on the company when they're 18? What are the strategies there? And then you just follow their
Just
steps.
another school, another
Yeah.
classroom,
Yeah.
another workbook. That's all it is. Just
Yep.
keep on doing more homework.
Yeah, I'd say corporation is number one. Like if you're a business owner and you're already at that threshold, I'm not an accountant, neither of us are, but if you hit that certain dollar amount and it makes sense to open that corp, you're taxed way less than that. It's like, I think 12.5%.
Yeah.
And then you can invest out of the corp if you want to, or you can even open up, I saw the book over there, Become Your Own Banker.
Yeah.
You can dive into infinite banking, and there's way more opportunities there within the corp too. So yeah, I'd say that's your first step, is open up the corp or talk to accountant first and then go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
This show is brought to you by Payne's Window Manufacturing. Window shopping revolutionized. Seeking top-tier windows? Look no further. Payne's Window Manufacturing is the ultimate choice for custom builders, contractors, and homeowners. Visit www.paynes.com now to experience the pinnacle of quality and customization. Get your instant custom quote today. Elevate excellence with us, plus enjoy nationwide shipping across Canada and the U.S. I think it's important. You have to understand that, right? And not a lot of people in construction know how to do that because they were taught by the parents who came in as immigrants who worked hard, paid their taxes, and provided a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's different.
Yeah. And I think even like we're both in financial services now, but a lot of this stuff we weren't taught by our parents either. You have to go seek out the knowledge and then ask the questions. And a lot of the times you're going to talk to one person who's going to explain to you. I remember the first time someone told it to me, I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. And I just parked it for like 2 years. And I was like, okay, maybe I should have just asked someone else. And someone else explained the same concept to me. I'm like, oh, now I get it. And so find the person who speaks in a way you understand and gives you the actionable steps that you can follow and go that way.
That was the same thing that happened to me. My father-in-law, probably about 5 years ago, gave me this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is like the Bible
Robert,
for all real estate investors. Like that's the book they read that opens up their eyes. And I was like, nah, I don't need it. I'm salaried. I've got a pension. I've got benefits, $100K a year. Like I'm set. I don't need that. And then I didn't read it until probably like 2 years later. And I was like, holy shit, like I got to look into this. And then that's kind of what like started everything for me. So it wasn't until I actually took the time to set aside and actually do the thing and read about it. But I'm glad it did. But
So maybe you needed to grow a certain amount to kind of
Maybe
appreciate that knowledge that was in there, right? Because
Yeah.
I know that a lot of kids nowadays, they're just all over social media and they're Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all these certain books that they're like, okay, read it. But I think you need to go through the darkness. I think you need to have some suck in your life before you actually start appreciating these lessons that are being shared over decades, right?
Yeah.
Before you really understand them.
I think more and more people are seeing that darkness because it's so damn expensive to live here. And I think that's what's driving more people. That's why you see like search engines, like there's so many people searching entrepreneurship, how to be a business owner. Cause like people are thinking about it's like, how do I make more money? Like side hustles. So yeah, I think you got to hit that darkness. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that.
Yeah, I would say too, like when you talk about that period of entrepreneurship, that's like the dark valley where everything's awful. I think that's a lot more easy to tolerate and to slog through when you've had the dark valley of a shitty boss or a job that like you absolutely hate and you're punching the clock every day and you're going through that for years on end at times. When you've gone through that, all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? The dark valley of my business and finding my financial future, it's less daunting. I can do another day of this.
It reminds me of a framer friend of mine that I'm still trying to get on the fucking show, but he's just ignoring me. And I'm talking about you, Ziggy. He doesn't listen because he's old school, right? But one of the first times I ever met him, he had a T-shirt on it, and on the front of it, it said, "I have 4 daughters. You can't scare me." I'm not afraid of anything, basically, right? So that's the darkness, is that I think when you go through that, you'll go through more shit, but it's not going to be the same as it was in the beginning. You'll be able to handle it and then move forward and then keep on going and then get to the end, which is basically the success. But I think a lot of people, and you guys have probably shared this on your show, where it's like achieving the goal is not necessarily the whole success package. Mm-hmm. It's who you become through that whole process. Because obviously at the start of it, to when you actually achieve it, you're going to be a much different person.
Yeah.
For good reason. You have to be.
Yeah.
If you didn't, then you didn't really learn and experience.
Well, you're learning skills along the way that translate into other things in life and bring you more opportunity, whether it's from a financial perspective or just connections in general. Like we're seeing it with our podcast. And I imagine, like, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably have seen that over the years of doing this podcast too, is like you're learning communication skills. You're meeting these, like these people that you never would have been in contact with before. So yeah,
it opens up doors, right?
It does. Yeah.
Plus you're learning. I'm constantly learning just speaking to people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess, oh shit, I had a thought there, but I think that the kids out there, they're just thinking it's easy because I guess the social landscape has taught that it's been easy to do this, right? I mean, I'm a fan of Gary Vee, right? But he's always talking about the garage sales.
Yeah.
So do this, buy this item for 5 cents and sell it for 25 cents or $25 and you make a lot of money. But I mean, these are like, I don't know, unicorns at that point, right? I don't know how many. That's what I was going to ask you guys. Sorry. And I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, I see a lot of the younger guys wanting to do more than one entrepreneurship at a time.
Yep.
I'm going to put my eggs in this basket, that basket. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep on doing it and see which one hits, which is like the Warren Buffett kind of asset allocation bucket where it's like you have a little bit in this, a little bit of that, secure, high risk and all that shit.
Yeah.
But it's the wrong way to go about it. I think you just choose one, focus on it, work on it, and see if it actually takes you to where you need to get to or want to get to.
Exactly. We just did this because we noticed the same thing in ourselves. We did that for a bit, and we noticed it's like rampant in the business community of everyone trying everything,
multiple streams of income.
And there's no force to push an idea forward because you're pushing like this, like, you know, you're a little bit here instead of just running head on into something. And there's a great analogy of like chasing two rabbits. You're never going to catch one of them. And that's what a lot of it is you're just running in different directions. I'm a little bit tired. I'll run here. Never, a little bit tired, and you never get to the top.
Do we as entrepreneurs do this unconsciously because we're tired of working at that one? So let me start this one because I know the beginning of this is going to be a lot more engaging and fun while I get distracted from that one. Is that what we do?
We're laughing because we
do it, right?
Like that was like one of our main points that we chatted about was like it's the boredom creeps up sometimes. And it's like I've seen it in my business where I was doing the realtor calls too. And that was like the main way I was driving leads into my business is connecting with realtors. But I was doing it to the point where I got to I think I was around the same boat, 120, 130 realtor meetings. I'm like, man, I've done so many of these and it's like getting so boring. And I started pivoting. I was like, oh, I'm going to start building out this YouTube channel. I'm going to start doing this. And then I started seeing my leads drop. I'm like, what happened? And it's just because I got bored of it.
Yeah. It's, you have to commit to doing the boring stuff. And I call it eating oatmeal. Like you got to eat your oatmeal every day. It's disgusting and it's like plain. But you do, if you do that for your business every day, your business will scale and grow. And the challenge is, I think that entrepreneurship attracts that ADHD brain.
Yeah.
And that ADHD brain
creatives
is attracted to new ideas and trying new things. And you also want to inject some newness in your business every now and then. So you're like, where is that line? There's no book that tells you, hey, your fine line is here. Don't go past that. So it's just trial and error.
If you have an accountability buddy, I think that's been the key for us is that like, I'll come to Brandon. I've probably had 2 in the last week where I'm like, oh man, like what about this? Like, I think this would be really cool if we did this in our business. And then right away you'll be like, shut up, Tom. Like that's fucking stupid. Don't go there. Yeah.
But in general, like entrepreneurs are loners, aren't they?
They can be. It depends on the industry you're in.
Yeah.
Like if you have buddies in the same industry, I'd say 100% link up with them and feed off each other, grow together.
I think also though in your statement, entrepreneurs are loners, but that gives an opportunity because you just go find other entrepreneurs. They don't have a lot of buddies who want to hang out and talk about business all the time as well. So they're kind of searching for that. And I think that was a big thing I found when I started my entrepreneurship journey. Is I try to talk about these things with the guys who are like, I just want to fucking have my 12 beers and watch the hockey game. Why are you always talking about this? But then you find your other buddies, like when you and I started talking about it, it's like, okay, like this is really like actually like stimulating conversation, debates on these things. And you just got to find your
We still enjoy the beers and hockey,
exactly.
but we'll be chatting about
They're
business
just enjoyed at a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
I kind of call it like smelling the roses. I think the majority of people that are entrepreneurs and they're going at it and they're working on the idea and they're like, okay, today I'm going to allocate this much time today, tomorrow, the whole week, the whole month, the whole year. They never stop and realize what's been accomplished, what's been achieved, and what I may have missed.
Yeah.
That's the big one, right? Because even if you have a buddy that's coming in, they may have blinders on and they may not see the whole bigger picture, right? And it happens occasionally with me where it's like I didn't see it. I really didn't see something and someone else had to come along and point it out and going, did you realize that? And then all of a sudden you're like, how the hell did you see that? I don't understand that. Because you're so driven. You're so focused on the one thing and then you're not smelling the roses is what I call it, right?
Yeah. I think reflecting back on how far you've come, and we do this every year at the end of the year.
But we do that because it's the end of the year. I
know.
think we should do it more often.
I agree with that, actually.
That's
a
the
good
accountant
point.
analogy. Don't do it once a year. Do it 6 times, 12 times. Do it every month.
For sure. And
right?
But like looking back and saying, okay, instead of where do I want to go all the time, it's, okay, what have I done? And have some reflection, feel good about that. And you touched on something too, people pointing out your blind spots. I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes people point out your blind spots and you're like, no, they don't really get my business. Like, and certain times you can have that mindset. Whereas if you're like, maybe they're right and give their suggestion a chance and think about it a little bit further. Sometimes you're like, holy crap, I do have a blind spot there and I got to work on that.
Because you do have a lot of people that will just call you or text you going, I've got an idea. Yep. And then they kind of break down the idea for you. You read it over and you're like, this is bullshit. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with it. I don't think it's going to work. That's my opinion. And then they try to justify it and explain it to you, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. At that point, I get frustrated because I'm like, listen, you asked my opinion. I've given it to you. I assessed it based on what you've described. Yeah. And this is my opinion. So don't get upset at me.
They want it so bad. It's like,
they want that validation. They want it to be like, no, this is the goal that's going to happen. Yeah. And everyone's going to be doing, wearing, experiencing this new idea of mine. And I'm like, great. If you feel that way, go. But you've asked my opinion. I've told you, and I don't think it's going to fly.
That's like the biggest red flag, in my opinion. If someone's like, I don't get it, or I don't think that's a good idea, it's like, okay, well, like maybe something's off there. Maybe I'm not explaining it well, or maybe it's like a too complicated of a business model. But that's where I think you should ask more than one person too, because like if you get one person's opinion, it's like it's one person.
But the types of people that you're asking.
The types, yeah, exactly. Like non-entrepreneurs.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's just like you ask a bunch of entrepreneurs. I think you ask that office guy or girl. You ask that, I don't know, truck driver. Like you just get a cross restaurant like at that point and try to figure out, okay, is this getting the same response from everybody?
Yeah.
And then if it is, then okay, maybe get rid of this shit and go back to chasing rabbits, right? Like it's just, that's where I think it is.
I like to do that. I ask you because you're pretty optimistic about things for like investing. And then my dad on the other side is very like risk adverse, old school mentality. And so I'll throw it to him knowing that I'm going to get like what's the worst possible thing that could happen from it. And then I kind of have that happy medium.
Or if I'm like, yeah, it's decent. That is like, okay, maybe I should.
And then I'm like, okay, I've got a pretty clear picture of where this sits.
Well, it's like my parents' generation. It's like I can't even imagine them listening to any of these ideas that are going on today, and them having some sort of hindsight, looking at it, going, yeah, that's a good idea. That's going to work. It's going to pull off. And it's I think today everybody's about ideas, about throwing this and throwing that and trying that. But I mean, most ideas don't fly.
Yeah.
Like that's the majority of the ideas. It's a small percentage that actually work and move forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Most things are duds. So you got to have don't sink yourself on a dud.
Yeah. You're not going to get your first time either. Like you're going to go through some shit before you get to it.
You might get it, but I mean, that's far and few, right?
It's,
like how many businesses have you had before? Mortgage biz.
At least 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm probably 2 or 3. Like, yeah.
But it's the lessons.
The lessons.
What you learned and who you became, that's where the value, that's where I keep on saying stop and smell the roses and realize what you learned.
Well, because that first business attempt could have worked if it was your 4th, because you had that experience up until that point.
For sure. Yeah, if you gave me that leather business, now I say this all the time, I could scale that. I could scale it, no problem. But at the time, I was more interested in having the beers and watching the hockey game.
I wanted to ask you guys, I guess nobody's talking NFTs these days anymore because it's all full of shit.
Yeah.
And that be it, whatever. But crypto, not a lot of conversation going on crypto, I guess, because...
I'm not a huge crypto guy. I don't think you are either. But like I just watched something I think it was like last week, someone saying like 2024 is going to be like the year for crypto. So don't take that from me. I'm not a big crypto guy.
I thought I heard the same thing about 2023.
Yeah, I know.
2022 and
Yeah.
2021. And
I found that all the crypto guys became NFT guys, became AI guys, and, and I was like, okay,
these
what's,
guys are just trying to get the 26 letters. That's all it is,
and,
man.
and I'm like, what is the 2024 bro is going to be something else? And it's like,
I'm a Z guy now.
Yeah.
I'm a Z guy. Whatever.
and I don't know, I guess we're kind of old school in that way. We take the proven strategies, the ideas that work, and we just figure out how to make them better. And that's all we do. And that's our whole model. And it works because, even if you took the proven idea and did it at the current level, you would still make money. You just wouldn't make as much money. So by making it better, we're just making more money.
That's where it's like the pot of gold that people want to achieve, and the time associated with that is grown so much more than what I was at that age thinking what you would want to achieve, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's like thinking, I guess, billionaire status now. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
That's
like, there's a
crazy.
certain percentage of people that are billionaires, right? Like, to get to that point is insane.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah.
You could, if you get to 3 million at a very conservative return, you can live off $180,000 a year drip to you and maintain your 3 million.
Since 2015, Groove has been built off the foundation of experience, innovation, and the continued desire to evolve how work is done even after the trade has mastered it. The people at Groove have more than 40 years of experience in the drywall and construction industry. Their commitment to both the growth of the company and the individuals Groove simply calls clients is unparalleled. Their mission is to empower builders, designers, and architects with the freedom to build on their designs, to encompass creativity in all of their projects without sacrificing quality, efficiency, or affordability. They accomplish this by providing production-focused solutions and design workflows that allow builders to overcome their construction limitations through drywall. They see drywall in a different way. Innovate, inspiration, integrity. Groove Industries. Check out Groove Industries at www.grooveind.com and on social at GrooveIND, and reach out to them on their email, orders@grooveind.com, or steve@grooveind.com, and Andre J @grooveind.com. And also their phone number is 416-629-3756. And conservatively, if you went like traditional investment routes and dividends, and you started in your 30s, you'll be set in your 60s.
Yeah, you'll be there at 65.
If you're not drawing from it either, you're just reinvesting.
You're reinvesting and growing it, and you're still working.
Yeah.
You're still working and contributing. You're still paying taxes, right? You'll be happy. You'll be comfortable. You won't have any worries, right?
And it's not going to be super sexy. You're not going to be posting a reel about it every 3 days driving around in your Ferrari in Miami. Who gives a shit? Like that guy.
You know what a Ferrari oil change is going for these days?
No clue.
No idea.
I don't want to know that.
I don't even care. Yeah.
I don't want to know the insurance.
I don't want to. The insurance, the replacement of tires, the replacement of pads. I don't want to deal with any of that.
No,
like when I look at Ferrari, I think of maintenance.
I'll go domestic.
Yeah,
all
the
day.
schedule.
Yeah.
How many? Why did you guys start your show?
We started our Commission Breath podcast, which is geared towards mortgage brokers and agents. And it was more to grow another business we were working on. And then we thought, you know what, we'll attract some agents into our orbit and just kind of use it as an incubator for ideas. So that was the Commission Breath podcast. And then the Invested Entrepreneur we started because we realized that we had a lot of questions on how we wanted to grow our own business and scale our own futures within entrepreneurship. And we found it as a way to share those ideas as we're learning and growing with people, as well as to use it as a channel to meet people like you and have these conversations where this was kind of like a warm introduction. A podcast was a nice way to get to have the conversation and then extract out the information, share it, and scale our business at the same time.
Yeah, and at the time, like with the Commission Breath podcast, that's more of like a business to business podcast where we're talking to other like business owners in our industry. And for us, it's like we wanted to create the Invested Entrepreneur because we wanted it to have a direct correlation to our mortgage business, but also we didn't want to talk about mortgages because like everyday consumers, they don't want to listen to mortgage stuff all year round unless they're actually getting a mortgage. And we're like, that's kind of boring. So what else can we do? Like, what else are we interested in? And it's like building businesses and trying to reach financial independence. And for us, like the whole FIRE movement with financial independence, retire early, we didn't really care for that retire early part. So we're like, how can we tailor this to kind of not focus on that, but just focus on these different ideas and business ideas, and having other people come in and talk about their experience with FI. And that's really where we came out with, it was originally titled FI Talk. And then we're like,
FI Talk?
Yeah. So financial, and then we're like, oh, you know what? Like we kind of want to speak more to the entrepreneur. So then we rebranded to the Invested Entrepreneur.
Yeah. I can only assume that Canada's a pretty good, strong, healthy hub of entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of
I think we
entrepreneurs.
searched it at one point. I forget the number, but we were surprised how many.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people within Canada who have the entrepreneurship bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also with the amount of immigrants that come in, entrepreneurship has a big tie to immigrants.
They're hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not just the entrepreneur listening in too, because it could be someone that's salaried but is thinking about getting into it or thinking about side hustle. So like a lot of the stuff we talk about still applies to like more than just entrepreneurs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you guys going to, like, is there an end date? No, there's no end.
No.
No.
We were actually saying today, like podcasting has become a thing that it doesn't feel like work at all. Like I feel like I'm taking the day off work recording a podcast right now. Meanwhile, it's another thing that just contributes to our overall business and everything that way. So we're having so much fun with it. There's no end date.
Yeah, if we were like editing our episodes and like doing all the back end work, we probably would have stopped like months ago. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
I would say stop it the moment that you're at home and doing nothing, or maybe hanging out with your kids,
Yeah.
and you actually do this motion. But there's nothing there. There's no mic. I would say, listen, I think it's time to just hang up the mic and walk away from that point, right? So I haven't gotten to that point where it's like, okay, but sometimes I'm here having a conversation, just a meeting.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I will grab the mic and put it here. And we're not even on air. We're not recording, and I'm having to talk with them with the mic on there.
The muscle memory.
I love it though.
So, no, you guys are doing a good thing, and I like it because you're getting more and more people that don't know where to go and where to get this information because there is so much noise out there.
Yeah.
So it's important to decide. And it's not that you guys are perfect and anybody else
No,
that
not at
was
all.
following. I'm definitely not perfect too, but have a listen and check it out, and it might be worth it. There might be a guest or yourself say something that connects with them, and they're like, you know what? Let me reach out to this person. That's what's happened to me. Like people think that I know a lot of stuff in construction. Fuck no. I have a lot of people who know a lot of stuff in construction. I bring them on. And I talk to them, and whenever I do another show that's got nothing to do with construction, I bring them on because I want to know about that. That's
You're probably a master at interviewing at this point because that's the skill you're building with the podcasting.
You're just asking questions. You're just having a conversation. It's no more than networking. Like it's just, and I find, in all fairness, like a lot of people ask me, how do you get started? How do you do it? And I'm like, just get rid of the nervousness about you trying to be a character of you and just be you.
Yeah.
Right. And I am finding that when I do go to networking events, I'm no longer afraid to speak to anybody now. Like there is that hesitant about, you're like, well, where the fuck do I start? Like, who do I attack? Which is the lone gazelle? Like, you know what I mean? And then go talk to them. That doesn't happen to me anymore. I'm like, okay, fine. How you doing? I'm so-and-so, my name. What do you do? What do you do? And then we get talking. Oh, well, that's fine. Then you'll find out there's a connection there somehow. You know somebody together, and all of a sudden you get talking at that point. That's what I think the podcast is doing really well. And I think a lot of people that come on the show, they realize that there's an opportunity for them to open up more and have better communication skills. So it's important to reach out.
For sure. Like if we came in and you're like, like you were like super nervous, like you would make other people feel nervous too.
It's a vibe. It feels off of it, right? Yeah. So, and I think it's important. Let's just get the information out there.
Yeah.
So when you're speaking to somebody, anybody, you just want to know more about them and what they do instead of you and what you do. You're not selling yourself. You're just asking them what they do in full curiosity. Like you genuinely want to know what they do, right?
For sure.
And it works. It totally works at that point.
Yeah, that's what makes a good podcaster is the listener extracting all this information from the guest itself, and you're just that person that's feeding the questions and getting it from them. For sure. That's something we're learning as we go too.
Yeah, I also think too, like when it comes to products like mortgages and a lot of construction jobs as well, let's assume your end product is a funded mortgage, or your end product is a fully finished bathroom. Outside of the quality of the workmanship itself, the finished product is the finished product. You want to know, one, that you trust the person you're working with, and that you also relate to something with them. And when it's a quick quote or a quick call, you can't get to know me, or I can't get to know you that deep. But if I listen to your podcast, I know a little bit more about what you're about. I know that you're interested in investing. I know that you love travel. I used to be in firefighting, like different things like that come out, and people get to know you better, and it creates rapport and builds stronger business relationships as well.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. I totally think, and that's what the government and journalism and all this shit in Canada doesn't know how to get right.
Yeah.
So that's why
so formal.
Yeah. It's like, don't be afraid to just be yourself. There isn't another one of you. I don't give a shit how much you try to look for it. Even if you had an identical twin, it's still not going to be you, man.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I appreciate you guys being on the show. We got to do the 12 questions.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Brandon Love and Tom Moffat here, the Invested in Entrepreneur podcast. Find them on Podbean, right?
Yeah.
But you guys are
anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just that's your hosting provider, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll get branched off to Spotify and iTunes and everything like that. 647-773-2656, and their email is experts@northshoregroup.ca, and on IG it's invested.entrepreneur. And on YouTube, find them with Tom Moffat and the sign Brandon Love. What's your favorite construction word? Let's change this. Let's go. What's your favorite investment word?
Leverage.
Drip.
Drip?
Yeah, so dividend drip. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, it's good. And leverage. Okay, that makes sense. What is your least favorite tool?
Level.
I was going to say level as well. Yeah.
Why? I'm curious.
Because my dad used to make me do projects with him, and he would always make me
Fucking
level,
hold it.
mark it with the pencil, re-level.
Be in that awkward position of holding it and trying to keep the bubbles.
Yeah.
There's lasers now. What? I don't know how this is going to work, but okay. What investment sound do you love?
Investment sound. Ka-ching.
Ka-ching. Yeah. Ka-ching. What's your favorite beverage?
Red wine.
Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
Any particular?
I'm just straight up bullet. I'll just do that every day. Yeah.
I have a bullet. I have a bottle of bullet.
Yeah.
Red wine. Canadian or American?
No, I'm Spain, Italian, and a little bit of Niagara region.
I just had a nice from Sardinia yesterday, which is really nice.
Beautiful.
I like that. I'm not a huge VQA, whatever.
Yeah, they're getting better, but gotta try to support
I like the white ones.
Getting better isn't better.
The natural wines are good.
What turns you on and off in investments, in investing, in the whole world?
What turns me on is looking at compounding and seeing where things can go in a 10, 20-year, 30-year horizon. What turns me off is
The other way.
people trying to do it in 1 year.
Which is total horseshit.
Yeah.
Same thing?
I would say what turns me on is the infinite opportunity that gets me going. And then turns me off is like those gurus who will hop on social and say, I did this in the next amount of time. Like, same thing.
The course, the people selling the course.
Yeah.
They're great performers.
Exactly. There's
Yeah,
courses
They just
everywhere.
know how to sell a performance. That's all
Yeah.
it is, right? But in all fairness, just do your own homework. Vet them, check them out, find out what the hell's the whole story, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Favorite curse word?
Go ahead, Tom.
Bitch ass.
Bitch ass.
All right, yeah.
I'm going to go classic shit.
Favorite vehicle in the entire world?
So we were talking.
I was thinking about this one. I don't know, man. It's gonna sound weird. Cadillac Escalades. I really like the look of the new ones.
The new ones.
Yeah, they're like just like super sleek.
It's just too big of a
It is
vehicle
huge.
for me.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't buy one, but I'm not like a big.
I need a
like,
Segway to get at the front. Like, it's just too long. It's too big.
Yeah. I'm just not a big like. Let's get a Ferrari type guy.
I think I'm going like an old Porsche 911 Targa.
80s.
Like a
Whale
old
tail.
one. Yeah, an old one would look really cool.
Where you can sit on the rear wheel panel.
And they're small. They're not super wide. The new ones are so wide. And
They always have that
driver,
clicky,
so-
they have the clicky sound, right? The engine, the clicky sound.
I've never been in one. Right?
What do you guys miss from your childhood?
Competitive hockey.
Going on vacation, having my parents
Road trip or plane trip?
I'm the youngest of 7, so it was usually like cottage trip. Yeah.
So the station wagon and 3 kids
the
in the
big
unsafe marker in the
GMC.
back.
Yeah, the big GMC van where like my seat was like drilled in the bottom.
Yeah.
It wasn't probably street legal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. What profession other than your own would you guys like to attempt one day?
Assassin.
Assassin.
I can't remember what mine was.
You know what? There's a special set of skills to be an assassin. Yeah, totally, man.
That's kind of
Just to know that you can turn it on one day. And just, that's it.
Yeah.
Do you realize what my other profession is?
I don't know that I could, but
Park ranger.
With a rifle?
No, just like I remember like back in the day before I got into firefighting, I was like, oh, this would be like a really cool career. I saw it on like the Ontario government, and it's like you literally just like go and take care of like the trails, and you're just out in the fucking wilderness all day.
Yeah, with bears.
he just wants to wear khaki every day.
I don't know. I think that'd be really cool.
What profession would you guys not like to do?
Hospital janitor.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
That's a bad one.
specific.
That's a hard one, yeah.
I'd say back to my old job of flagging. I hated that. Just being outside with the stop slow sign. Ugh.
Is that the official title? Flagging?
That's what we called it. I don't know. That was a town of Oakville phrase, maybe.
Flagging, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty boring, eh?
Yeah.
Carpal tunnel? No. I guess.
Yeah, a lot of
What's wrong
flipping.
with your wrist?
There we go.
You're blaming jiu-jitsu and it's flagging.
Last question. If heaven exists, what would you guys like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
Doors open. Let's go.
I didn't think this one over. Welcome.
No, a lot of people say welcome. It's all good as long as you have entry fee. That's all. It's as simple
there
as
you
that,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thanks for
Absolute
having
pleasure
us.
having
Yeah,
you on the
thank you
show.
very
Great
much.
chat, and love to have you guys back whenever, and we continue the conversation. And I'm encouraging everybody to come and check you guys out, your podcast, and have a listen and see how it goes, right?
Awesome.
What episode you at, Never?
We're at 20, 21.
Yeah, I don't even count
like
anymore.
Yeah.
How often do you guys post?
Once a week.
Once a week,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of it's a job, eh?
Yeah, we've got the streamlined process of just we show up, record, get our guests on the show, and then we have our editor do most of the stuff on the back end. It's about, it's a lot of work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
That's
Appreciate
it. We're out of here, Angelina.